Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of Talk to Me, Sis. We have a Father's Day surprise for you this week. And we were trying not to do any spoilers, and we're just so excited. We did the Love on the Spectrum Mom series, which we finished last week with Esme, which I was really sad to miss Esme's episode. But tonight we have a special treat. We have LA. Do you prefer LA, Lawrence? What do you prefer?
I'm known by many different names. It depends on my target audience. Some people call me Lorenzo, which is my cool name.
Okay.
But June calls me Lawrence, but only when she's mad at me. My clients call me L.A. My family calls me Larry, which I hate the name, but, they're my family.
Right.
But Lauren, for the sake of this podcast, Lawrence will do.
Okay.
Or Lorenzo.
Okay.
All right.
Or Lorenzo. I also think you will be known on this episode as James's dad.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fine.
And there's the surprise. Woohoo. Yeah. We have James's dad in the house. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you.
My pleasure.
We're excited. We were actually having some good conversation before we turned on the recording. So, hopefully we'll get right back into the groove. But I know Nicci's a little under the weather. She's been traveling and hooting and hollering over there at Country Music Fest. So, Lawrence, I think you and I are going to do the lion's share here. But what we always like to start off with, Lawrence, is just before June, before James, before your kids, we are so interested about who was Lorenzo before June, before kids. Tell us a little bit about you as you grew up, what you were interested in, and sort of your journey to June and your family.
Well, I come from a family of three siblings, an older sister and two younger brothers. We grew up in a suburb of Boston. We were all born in Boston, but when I was 3 months old, we moved to a suburb of Boston called Wayland, Massachusetts, which back then had a population of under 2,000, a long time ago. And it's a small town. When we first moved there, we had a 3-digit telephone number. Okay, that's how rural it was. Okay, but it was an experience, and one of the things that was so different from today was that my father, worked daytime mostly, and my mother would, kick us out and go play somewhere. Yeah. Go play somewhere and come back at dinner time. Come back at dinner time.
Yeah.
And so she many times never knew where we were. We used to ride our bikes all over the place, and we actually had a neighborhood. All the kids would ride our bikes all over the place, and um, they never knew where we were. But nowadays, we have to keep track of our kids all the time.
So different.
That's the way things are now. But we never kept the front door locked. The front door was unlocked most of the time. The cats and dogs were free to roam wherever they wanted to, and it was a small town back then. So we went to public school, and my parents made the decision to send the first three of us to a private school, a prep school, just because that was their background too. And so I graduated from there. I went to a business college, a small business college, and after getting out of there, I went home. It lasted 3 months at home before I had to move out. And moved around a bit, and eventually settled in the same town that June grew up in, Holliston, which is right next to the town we live in right now. And just by coincidence, um, we met on Christmas Day. Okay. Um, and it was a blind date set up by some mutual friends of ours, Christmas Day at her house. Um, and we had some common backgrounds. We both same religion, and we both had bishops in our family. Okay, Episcopal bishops. Her uncle and my first cousin once removed. So, and my grandfather was a Episcopalian minister as well. So, um, anyway, uh, we bonded pretty quickly. We had some rocky roads, getting to know each other, but uh, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. It worked out in the end. I'm very
I
lucky
have a
that.
question for you. I have a
Oh,
question
please
for you,
do.
Lawrence, because June told us about your Christmas Day date.
Yes, she did.
And I want to know, we all want to know, when the Canadian knocked on the door with the jewelry and the Christmas gifts, what were you thinking?
Well, he got there before I did.
Oh,
What were you
He was.
I want to know what you were thinking.
I thought. Now I'm trying to remember now. I don't know. He may already have been there, but um, I was questioning that, um,
I bet.
but I was reassured that he was just a flash in the pan. He was just you know, wasn't
A
It
fleeting,
sounded like
rival.
the
fleeting
date.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded
So
like you were the scheduled date and he was a surprise, but it was just, nevertheless, I was thinking,
That was
that
funny.
was kind of big of you to stick around and go, wait a minute, lady, what are you
yeah,
doing?
June was just as surprised because I guess she had, if I remember right, she had invited him to stop by any time, and he just chose that particular time to do it, and so, but
Mr. Canada.
that was just he was gone the next day, and after that, you know, uh, things progressed. Okay,
I love it. Love it.
I have
That is
another
awesome.
question. James was telling me, and I don't know if this is accurate, and maybe I'm not remembering it. Do you have family that came over on the Mayflower?
that's correct. Um, William Brewster, but he was called William Brewster the Elder. Um, came over, and I think I'm 12th or 13th generation. Of course, James would be one more, but
That's so cool.
yeah, I mean, I guess it is. There are millions and millions of Mayflower descendants, so we just happen to be, you know,
You just know it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but um, that's true, So
I mean, that's
it's
and
not really a
especially
big deal, but
I think it's a big deal. Have you been to Plymouth Rock? Have you ever gone out there?
I went there. I've been there 2 or 3 times. Once with my father when I was like 5 or 6, and we did take the kids. Um, oh, when they were teenagers, probably. Just to Plymouth and yeah. So
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not very impressive. It's a little rock, right? I've gone there once. Connor's actually been there.
well, it isn't a big rock, but I would say it's maybe 8 feet long, and it has a crack in it actually. Um, it split somewhere in the past 400 years, and
Okay.
but it's there, you know, and there's a lot of stories about the Plymouth Rock, and that may or may not be true, but
Mhm.
um, it's there, you know.
I just think
So
that's a cool fun fact for your family. Well, I guess now that, so you got to where you met June and you had James. And then I guess we had some just questions, and listen, if we are asking questions and you're like, hey, let's move on from that, we're totally fine with it.
Absolutely.
But just when June, moms were very in tune with our kids, but dads are too. And we're thinking about also just your lens after all these years of parenting James, helping newer diagnosed dads who are going through what you went through. Did you start to see some of the behavior that June was seeing? Or did June bring it to your attention, or kind of how did that unfold for you?
One of the decisions that June and I made was that children need to have at least one full-time parent. At that time, when we had kids, June left her job and became the full-time parent. To compensate for that, I had to work two jobs. And from actually, even before I met June, I had always had an extra income, whether working as a busboy or doing nighttime accounting work or whatever. Um, um, I've had two jobs until from 1980 to 2010 or so.
Wow.
It's only been recently that I just have the one income now, my business. But so to get back, um, June has been the full-time parent, um, and I've had to because I had to work, more to compensate. I
Sure.
wasn't really that in tune with the kids the way June was. Okay,
Sure.
um, she was the rock of the Plymouth Rock of our family.
Of
Okay,
your family, yes.
and so my acknowledgement of both of our kids, um, um, is limited compared to June's. Okay, um, as far as James goes, a lot of um, my learning about James's uh, being different came from June. Okay, uh, one of the things that James has taught me anyway, personally, is patience. Um, um, Now, my father, James reminds me a little bit of me when I was his age, growing up, but much more so, James reminds me of my father. My father, I believe, was on the spectrum as well.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and so a lot of the um, uh, a lot of the um, characteristics that James has, I have seen already. So growing up with a parent who um, was on the spectrum,
Right.
and, uh, and my father was probably high functioning as well. He raised four kids, and
Right.
but he had difficulties with in life. He came back from World War II, and he was quite lucky to get back from World War II, and very lucky to meet my mother, and so so anyway, I see my father in James a lot, and so I've learned patience, and uh, um, June had the more typical upbringing. Her parents were saints, really. Um, so so anyway, a lot of my learning about James came from June, and but again, uh, I've had to be patient, and I still am. The patient one in the family. June and James uh, don't know how to uh, discuss things without escalating. Okay,
Really?
they escalate. Well, James is, he's going through, well, he has always been an idealist. And
Yeah.
now I remember having an idealist phase. I grew out of it. James hasn't grown out of his idealism yet. Okay. Uh, uh, but, and actually, I hope he never does. I really,
I was going to say, you know what, Lauren, sometimes that's the beauty and the blessing of these individuals in our families is,
oh yeah.
I really do believe that the lens that Connor brings to our family is so needed in our family. So maybe that's James's role too and lesson, right?
Sure. So anyway, I've gotten most of my uh, uh, knowledge about spectrums and all that from June.
So that leads to the next question. Nicci, let me know if you want to chime in. But
Following
so
your
then
lead.
June is like, you're each in your lanes and you've chosen like, this is going to be, I'm going to provide and you're going to raise the kids, and everybody was in agreement, and that's great. When June started bringing this to your attention and said, hey, Lawrence, we've got this situation, we're going to start looking at diagnosis and school settings and all these things, as a dad, and he was your firstborn and your firstborn son, any emotions that you feel comfortable sharing? Or were you just like, okay, let's get on this team and let's go? Or were you like, wait a minute, maybe not? Or anything that you felt? Or were you just ready to support whatever lane June was choosing?
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to speak only about my own family. You can relate to this or not, but when it comes to um, situations like this, I've always been looking for solutions. June comes to me with a jar that needs opening. Open this. I open it. She has a problem with her car. I fix it. She has has a problem with a squeaky door, whatever. I fix it. You know, June says, "Okay, we have a son with on the spectrum. Actually, back then we called it Asperger's. I think that's out of favor now.
Out of vote. Yeah, but whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
But we have a son on the spectrum, and what do we do? So we look for solutions. Um, I wasn't really emotional about it. Um, I think June was a bit more emotional. Because she had to deal with it on a more personal level. Okay, um, being the full time parent, and uh, so part of my job was to support her in her support June in supporting James. Okay, um, and June had help also from her parents, um, and um, and later on from William, our second son. Okay, and so I I'm also looking for solutions, and I still am. You know,
Right.
looking for ways to make James's life better, ways to make June more uh, well more comfortable as a uh, but make her life better. Um, that's my goal in life is to make her happy.
That's just,
She
yeah, just a solid husband and family man and teammate. And I think that's interesting because we did an episode with our husbands, and it was very similar, you know, very similar
Reaction.
mindsets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I hear this is a Mark Smith mindset right there. It's just like my husband. That's how we did it too.
okay?
Yep.
All right, good.
And I think
Uh,
that comes through on the show. But what also, just to jump forward a little bit, what struck me, so obviously we joined on season 2, and then we came back on season 3. When I watched you and June on season 1 and subsequently 2, and then I got to meet you, is you are, you're very funny and real with James, and you challenge James, and you don't back down. I mean, in a loving way,
In a
and you
good
give him
way.
advice and you push back on him. And I think everybody, I don't know if you and June have social media, people love your family.
Oh,
They
thank
love
you.
them.
Thank you.
They love y'all. Love y'all.
And my favorite part, Lawrence, and I have to ask this because I remember thinking when you gave him the Ferraro Rocher chocolate
Okay.
and he stuck it in his pocket. Do you remember giving him the chocolate for the date?
Sure. It's my
Like
favorite
a
chocolate,
melt.
and I felt that he might break the ice with a young lady by
Yeah.
giving her a chocolate.
I
Um,
love that you just supported him and all these like, dating advice. And I love when he gets mad when you say happy wife, happy life.
um,
That's the best.
one of the things that I've tried to do for James is to make him think. Um, I, I'm trying to make him have him see other points of view, other perspectives in life, um, and so by challenging him, by I'm not going to say pushing back, but I'm going to say by uh, asking him to think about what he wants to do, or what he thinks, or what he does, or what he has done, um, um, and try to learn from these experiences. Okay, the same way we all do. Okay, um, um, I've always prided myself that I made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I've learned from them and tried not to do them again, tried not to duplicate them again. But sometimes James, and I'm sure other people on the spectrum, have a difficulty in learning from their experiences. James does, and so, but he's getting better. He is getting better at it, and I think his involvement with the Love on the Spectrum show has helped him um, in this regard, uh, to learn from his failures. Okay, which that's the best way to learn, is to fail and ask yourself, hey, how can I prevent that from happening again?
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
so I think he is making some progress in that regard.
It's
I also feel
wonderful.
like at least with Connor, I do feel like there's a lot of similarities between James and Connor, some of the same interests as well.
Oh yeah,
I think
yeah,
some of what Connor gets stuck on is I think sometimes it's the inflexibility and the rigidity in thought that people on the spectrum experience. And it's almost just like it's so, at least for Connor and what we've kind of worked through, is it's so scary to get on the other side of what he thinks it should be. If he can keep his guardrails up, no matter what the consequence, Connor's okay. And I think June kind of led with that a little bit with James. I think when he did school projects, James wasn't the best teammate because it had to be James' way or the highway.
yeah.
Is that right? And so
But he says that, um, and he's learning that that's not the way life works. But
that's what I think
yeah,
I meant with you is I think you do it in such a loving way, at least what I saw on the show. And I've actually been in person with you guys in restaurants, and I see it that you put expectations on them that the world's going to have, but in a loving way. And I think that's why people are so drawn to you. And you're funny too. I mean, you're just funny with it.
For sure.
um, well, when you're in front of the camera, you just don't know. The first day or so, we didn't know what to do. It was, but
It's
you
very
have to,
awkward.
you have to uh, get warmed up in front of the camera, and um, so, but it was worked out well, you know.
You have a beautiful family. And then talk about, I guess as a dad of this age with, you've got grandkids, you have one son married, and you've got James, and James now has found love and We learned that at the end of season 3. I think we saw Shelly come over in your backyard. In terms of like younger dads out there that are finding all this stuff out new, do you have any kind of advice, just dad to dad, for some of the younger dads or newly diagnosed dads? Maybe they're not necessarily young, but they have a newly diagnosed child. Any pearls of wisdom, Lawrence, that you would just want to tell them?
I would say, first of all, patience, of course. I would say, and I hate to say this, but do not walk away. Do not abandon your family. I've had, in my business, I have clients, a lot of single moms who the husbands found out they had a kid who was what was the word, non-typical or something like that,
and neurodivergent,
and they couldn't live with it. They walked away. So the first thing I would say is, it's your responsibility. You've got the kid. Don't walk away from it. You know, be a man and be patient. It's your kid, and it's your responsibility to teach that kid, about the real world. Okay, in spite of all the things that life will throw at you, you know, you got to be patient and got to be a loving father, a loving husband. Not easy to do, but that's it right there. Do whatever you can.
Yes.
It's your job. You sign the contract. You
Love that you're saying that. It is. It's your job. You decide to have children. It's your job.
Yeah, it's your job. So you do what you have to do. In my case, I've been working, 2 jobs for a long time, and that was what I had to do. So.
So to that point, and I love that you said, like, don't walk away, stick around, be patient. And so sometimes, and people could think, yes, of course, husband, dad. What was for you? Obviously, it's being there as a good dad for your boys and James. How about the marriage part? Because it gets hard. And the divorce rate, Lawrence, for anybody with a child with disabilities or different abilities is through the roof more than the average divorce rate. What was the trick? How did you and June endure? Any tips or anything you're comfortable sharing?
Okay. June and I have had a lot of challenges over our married life. And it's not just the kids, we've had financial challenges in the past, not anymore. We've had challenges with jobs. We've had challenges with in-laws, both her in-laws and my in-laws. Okay. And we've had challenges thrown at us just by life in general. Okay. And it's a matter of sticking with it. Okay. So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just like, how did you and June endure? And it just sounds like you're trying to say, you have to choose her every day.
Chose each other.
We kept our sights on what we had to do. We did what we had to do. And I pride myself that June and I have overcome almost every challenge that has come our way in the past 40 years. Okay. We've done it by a lot of hard work for both of us, and we've had challenges dealing with in-laws, but and the in-laws helped as well. Okay. And we've had help from a lot of other people as well. Okay. And without this support from other people, and also from programs that was in this case, there was a educational program created. James was the first dot on the graph. Okay, and this program was really created with around him, and
Amazing.
yeah, and uh, it was he went through his junior high and high school. He went through this program, and that helped a lot too. Knowing that he
Nice.
was getting special attention. Okay,
Right.
um, um, he wouldn't have survived in regular education, and
Yeah.
so we really am grateful that we live. 50 years ago, he wouldn't have had the opportunities that he
That he
has
does.
now.
Yeah.
Um, and he would have had to live with just being different, and people would um, treat him differently, and but uh, we're more enlightened now, and especially shows. There are TV shows now that
Bring it
show
home. Yeah.
people on the spectrum, and so it's being more accepted now, and there's more understanding out there.
I
So
agree. I think the
anyway,
representation of actually neurodivergent individuals being shown, like in docuseries like Love on the Spectrum, or actually playing roles in movies and they're actually on the spectrum, that representation alone, we didn't see that even
No, not
10,
at all.
15 years ago. And I think that this kind of show that they've come out with has helped so many families at least have some hope of like, oh my goodness, this is what life could look like, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
and I mean, I know James drives and works full time, and he
Yes.
drives he drives into Boston. I mean, that's like, I don't even like driving into Boston, like,
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. That is quite an undertaking.
yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, just I think to show the hope and trajectory of a young man from June's episode of like he struggled, and but I also love that, you say June was the Plymouth Rock of the family, but I think you kind of were too. You just you both just stuck it out, and you had your roles, and you were good teammates, and that was the thing.
Yeah. And again, there are challenges, but Bill and I really are. I was very lucky to have married her, and you know, um, we
She's
we
great.
we we have the same. We've um, well, we've aged together
Yeah. You
pretty
grow
well.
together.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the word matured but well, we matured as a couple, um, and um, uh, we still have the same goals, you know, and uh, we still love each other, you know, uh, and you know, sometimes we don't like each other, and
That's marriage.
she doesn't
That's
have to
marriage.
like me, but she has to love me. Okay, put it
Yeah.
that way. All right, as long
I
as she
think it's
loves me, that's all that matters.
I
She
think
doesn't
that's
have
one
she doesn't have to like me, but she has to love me.
I think it's wonderful for younger married couples and just younger people in general to have seen your family and seen how far James has come, and to hear you sit at this phase in life and say that there's no magic, there's no secret sauce, there's no fairy tale. It's just hard work and it's commitment, and
Exactly.
it's doing what we are supposed to do when we become parents. You bond
That's right.
together, you become a team, and you're not always comfortable and you're not always happy, but it does pay off, and eventually the peace and contentment and fulfillment comes, but you have to go through those hard seasons. And I think it's
Absolutely.
so great for younger people who are standing at the bottom of the mountain to hear somebody like you say that, and here you are, and now you can pick on him and and have a good time with him.
I almost think too, the longer and the more, they say like it's like a diamond, right? The pressure and the firing that a diamond endures before it's beautiful, right?
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
marriage. And I really feel like these people, any individuals, it doesn't have to be men. Sometimes it's the moms that walk away, or the women, just because it's hard or it doesn't feel good anymore. You don't have the butterflies in your tummy. On the other side of all these hardships is a closer level of intimacy and connection in a committed relationship, that those butterflies when you first meet somebody and kiss somebody, that can't even scratch how beautiful it can be on the other side of all of this crap that we go through, right?
Yeah.
And I just think everybody's so quick to drop it because they want the rush, they want the butterflies, they want the electricity. That is so fleeting, because there's something so much more beautiful on the other side of an endured love.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
whether you're faced with neurodivergent kids, because we have some listeners here who don't even have kids and aren't married. But if you are listening to this, Lawrence, you were right. Don't walk away, stick it out. You made the commitment, and there's such a beautiful thing that's so it's not spoken about enough to know how amazing it is the other side. I'm sure the connection you and June feel when you look back now is way better than any first kiss you ever had, you know? That's my 2 cents.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Smart man, Lawrence.
That's right.
Trying to think, Nicci, is there anything I was thinking there's some other questions here about, just parenting William versus James and all of that stuff. I mean,
Yeah. Did you find it did you struggle with bonding with James or emotionally connecting with him? Or was that not an issue for you? I mean, we've gotten all different answers.
I don't think that was ever an issue. I never had trouble bonding with him. No, he wasn't, you know, a typical uh, kid that, you know, like with my father. We used to go out and toss a baseball around, and
Right.
once in a while, and James was never, uh, you know, an athlete, whatever. But um, he had other things that we were able to bond with. Computers or or um, homework or whatever. But no, there's never really any difficulty um, uh, between differences between bonding with William and James. At least I don't remember any difficulties.
Full.
What about James's affinity for the swords? Because Connor has it too. And I mean, just where did that come from? And do you have a common interest in sort of that craftsmanship of the weapons, or is this just all James?
Well, first of all, I don't like to use the word weapon. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
It's from a guy's standpoint, it's a toy. It's a toy. Something that you collect or whatever. I don't know where that came from, but I think a lot of it might have to do with the affinity for a lot of these kids today are these computer games, where they there's one that is a Game of Thrones or something like that, or
Was it Dungeons and Dragons or something? Or
yeah. Oh, James is big on that, and and so um so I don't know where James got this liking of swords, but you could go into uh, Freudian psychology perhaps, and but you know, I'm not going to go into that. Maybe I shouldn't go into that, but you know, uh, guys like to have their toys. Okay, I have my toys, um, and um, so that's something that James has
Close to
picked up
James.
on,
Yeah.
and um, I think most guys have their toys. So
it's true because some are into cars, or my husband loves to fish, so he has a fishing pole collection that I just don't understand. And each pole does a different, and I'm like, isn't a fishing pole a fishing pole? Like, I don't know.
No. There are different types of fish. There are freshwater fish, saltwater fish. There are different types. There are like 4 or 5 different types of trout, depending on how deep they are in the water. Brook trout, lake trout, rainbow trout, salmon. And so you have to have a different size fishing rod for different sizes of fish. Okay.
I think we have them all, Lawrence, in my garage somewhere, on his boat somewhere. But I agree, and I think I did love that. That was one thing that when we also saw your family and we saw James, I thought, oh my gosh, this is Connor's like counterpart in Boston, because Connor has the sword collection as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
well,
oh, sorry.
I'm thinking that eventually, Shelley is going to have some influence about that.
Oh yeah,
and
probably
that,
so.
And maybe when if and or when they move in together, that she's going to say, get rid of it, and
We'll be interested to see.
James likes to go to these medieval fairs, okay, and also to these. It's a cosplay. These things where they dress up and all that. I know that they discourage at some of these cosplay conventions, seminars, whatever they are. You don't like people bringing in edged weapons or toys,
right? Yeah.
So they're on the wall there in James's room. You can see them, but he takes them down once or twice a year.
He likes them.
They're there for display, decor.
Yeah.
He doesn't use them at all. So
it's a source of pride. That's collection.
No, I mean, Connor loves the craftsmanship or the detail. Connor has like this whole and his katanas versus this. I'm not even gonna pretend to know, but I mean, Connor takes a lot of like enjoyment just from the craftsmanship of, or what time period and why the length of the blade, if you're close or far away. Like Connor gets really into it. It's
now tell me,
interesting.
Has Connor read The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien?
Yes, he's read all of them.
So I bet that has a lot to do with it too. And there's a lot of other fantasy stories out there that where a young man can put himself into the story and pretend that he has, the sword and all that. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with it too.
Well, since you just mentioned Shelley, so tell us, Lawrence, your perspective. How has it been for you as a dad to watch James, finally meet that one that seems to be sticking and really like the relationship is flourishing? How has that been for you?
Well, I haven't gotten really involved with his love life, and I don't really want to. All right, that's a mother's job. Okay, that's June's job. Okay, as I said, when I was in the, before I got married, I dated a lot and I made a lot of mistakes, but I was on my own back then, and I didn't really have any, didn't want any involvement of my parents in my love life. I would, once in a while, take a young lady back and introduce them to my parents, but they never gave me any feedback. They would, they liked it. Pretty much anyone I would bring back,
Lucky you. I never had it like that.
Well, my mother really wanted me to get married,
Okay.
And she really would have been disappointed if I had never gotten married, you know.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway, I haven't really been involved with James's love life, and um, I am very happy that that Shelley has come along. Um,
Yes, that's
I,
wonderful.
you know, I really think that this is James's best shot right now. Um, I'll tell you a story. When I first met June, we were going out. We were different people back then, and I went to a party at the company where I was working, and there's one of my colleagues there, a woman, said, you know, how long have you been going out? And um, and it was probably like 5 years or so. And she says to me, you know, you're being unfair to her. If you're not going to marry her, cut it off now, because it's not fair for either one of you to cut it to keep on going unmarried, 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 and that got me thinking. She was right, and it was right after that that I began to think about, yeah, maybe I should, to use an old army expression, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Okay, and so. Um, uh, so I did. It was it was soon after that that I decided that, you know, uh,
This is
that
it.
we should get married. You know, because it wouldn't have, if we were to break it off, then we both would have had to start off from square one again.
Start
You know,
over. Yeah.
and that's how I view James's relationship with Shelley. Um, uh, they both seem to like each other a lot, and um, and there are going to be hiccups, you know,
Sure.
as in any relationship, but it's up to them uh,
Figure it out.
to get beyond these hiccups, you know, um, and um, and mature as a couple to have the relationship uh, blossom, as it were. Okay, so again, I'm fully encouraging. Uh, in my non-involvement way, um, uh, to uh, to see this relationship blossom more.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and I'd
Wonderful.
like it to. Not the least reason is so that um, if they do get married and uh, get a house or live together somewhere else, that James is
James
moving
can
out.
go.
You know, um, there's a lot of stuff that in the house that we are waiting to give to James, uh, and it will create a lot more room for us. Okay.
When he can establish his own place.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it's a goal. It could happen. Um, we talked about it, but it may or may not happen. There's
Right.
a lot of issues there about uh, this particular location right now. Is very good for my business, and um, if I moved somewhere else, I would have to downsize my business. I'm not ready to do that quite yet.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so
So, aside from the obvious of Shelley, what other ways, positively or negatively, whatever way you want to, or a little bit of both, or whatever the predominant way is, has love on the spectrum impacted James, not only James, but your family?
wow. Without love on the spectrum, James would be just another face of the crowd, just another um, people that another person that people would say, you know, yeah, he's different, and uh, but we love him and all that. But because of the exposure that he's gotten, uh, I think he sees himself better. He sees himself more more realistically, perhaps.
That's great.
He's gotten involved with a lot of other people uh, who are helping him, who understand him, who might be like him. Okay, um, and um, you know, it makes him realize that he's not alone. That there are uh, people out there who will help him, or who have helped him, and um, James has gone, he can go almost everywhere, and people are going to say, hey, James, how you doing? They take selfies and all that. And June and I get the same thing. We get, uh, we get recognized. But as far as James goes, it's really helped him a lot.
That's great.
And he would never have met Shelley otherwise, probably.
Yeah.
Um, although I believe I was told, June said that he met Shirley through Instagram, not because of the show, but
Well, it could be because of his following that she found him too. So you never know. But
all right,
that's amazing. Yeah.
Again, I don't know about these things, so
Oh yeah, it's fine. And so overall, the overarching has been a really positive experience, and and it sounds like it just helped his self-esteem and just overall, it's been a good thing.
absolutely,
Confidence. That's wonderful.
As far as the show affecting James's relationship to his parents, I think it's helped there too. Actually, it's a plus and a minus. Uh, it's created some uh, situations that um, uh, can cause conflict, you know. Um, but again, when when this happens, June and I just talk to James, and he's been a lot more receptive to thinking about exactly what caused the conflict, rather than without the show's perspective, it might have been more difficult to to to
Get him to
fix.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's more what's the word I want? Agreeable for changing for change.
That's wonderful. That's a great step toward, even more maturity. That's great.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, uh, and I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this or not, but James and Shirley are out looking for houses, right? I'm not sure if June told you that. Did June tell you that? All right, well they're
No.
looking.
Well, we can edit this out if you want us to. I'm looking at the time.
I'm sorry. Oh,
I can
I
edit
don't.
this out if you want us to.
Well, I'll tell you what. You should let June do the editing.
Yeah. I love
So,
it.
I think it's okay to say that they're looking for houses right now,
Good for
and
them.
well, uh, housing in this particular part of the country is very expensive. I'm sure it's expensive everywhere, but
Oh, but the Northeast, I think even more. Yeah.
well, it's a very densely populated area, and there's only so much land, and only so many houses can be built,
Will fit.
and
Yeah.
and um, I think people are moving into New England a lot, and creating more of a demand for these houses. So,
Sure.
um,
It's competitive, huh?
yeah. So anyway, there's no way that James can afford a house on his own. Um, but so we're hoping that, um, and again, I'm not speaking out of turn. I'm hoping that she, Shelley and James can um, buy a house together. I guess that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Marriage or no marriage, buy the house first, and
Yeah.
and just
That's right.
hope for the best.
That's right. A big
Yeah,
decision together and strengthen the relationship.
exactly,
One
exactly.
last question, Lawrence, and it's just a funny one. Where in the world did James get his fashion sense? And you want to bribe him to cut his hair, like the hair and the clothes. Who does he get this from?
Yes. Where did that come from?
Good question. Now you might remember back in season 1. Now I've always been very conservative. I did have longish hair in college. That was back in the '60s,
Right.
and I was a quasi hippie, but
We'd love to see pictures.
speak to Zoom.
Yeah,
Anyway,
okay.
um, but I've always been, being an accountant, was supposed to be conservative. I've always had short hair, and I've always felt that James, uh, in his career, in his job, would be handicapping himself with long hair. Uh, Now that's just being old-fashioned right now, because I admit I'm old-fashioned in that regard. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and it's a different world today. You know, um, so I'm very accepting of his long hair now. But you may remember back in season one, uh, um, where I offered him $500 to cut his hair, and he turned me down. And I'm glad he did. He was being his own man. He was telling me, Dad,
Nope.
go
Yeah.
away,
This is
go.
right.
I love it. It's his signature look. I love
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, it is. And
And the
uh,
shirts are amazing.
The shirts are
well,
great.
uh, he might have gotten that from me. I've always had uh, Hawaiian shirts, you know, and he's kind of taken it to an extreme, though. You know, um,
Love it.
and so uh, so he's just, again, reminds me of me when when I was his age, when I was younger, and actually my father uh, had a beard. My father had a Santa Claus type beard.
Yeah.
Okay,
A big beard.
and uh, and so my father had no um, compunction at all about hair, and you know uh, uh, and a beard. So uh, James is probably uh, following in the family footsteps about
Family
you know
heirloom.
yeah, about being his own person. It's his look, it's his trademark.
It
So
is. It is.
yeah,
I
so
love
I
it.
love it.
Well, you know what, Lawrence? We appreciate your time. You've given us like a whole hour of your time, and you've been amazing. And I know I've just enjoyed getting to know you better and letting our subscribers and listeners learn more about. They see your family on TV, but now they've gotten to know you and June, and they get it. And the world loves your family. We love James.
thank you.
We do love your family. You're amazing. And next time that we are in Boston, we want one of your Mai Tais.
Oh, absolutely. Please
Yes,
do.
for sure. For sure. I love
Okay.
it.
Well, thank you, Lawrence. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and just really thank you for all your time, and happy
Yes,
Father's Day
thank
on
you.
Sunday.
Yeah,
I've
this was
enjoyed this very much. Thank you, ladies.
a fun Father's
Excellent.
Day surprise. I
Yes,
hope
thank
all
you.
the dads have a great one.
Yep. Happy Father's Day. And listen, we love you, mean it.
Love you,
Thank you.
mean it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Lastly, everybody, if you liked hanging out with us today, do us a favor, hit the follow button, leave a rating, or drop a quick review. It helps more than you know. And if you really loved it, send it to a friend who needs to hear this. And if you're interested in sponsoring a future episode, please send us an email at talktomesismail@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and love you, mean.